Everyone in the kingdom of Valdenmoor knew the story very well. 17 years ago, a wicked woman named Maren had put a curse on the land. The rivers had turned dark and dirty. The crops had stopped growing. The sky above the northern villages had not seen the sun properly in all those years, and every single year, the darkness kept moving slowly, closer and closer to the palace walls. The king had one answer to this problem, and that answer was written inside an old message, carved into the throne room floor. The message said this: "When the blood of the crown goes on the journey north and stops the dark voice, the land will breathe again." That meant Princess Nora had to go. Nora was 17 years old. She had sharp eyes, a brave heart, and she was never afraid of anything. She had been trained since she was 10 years old to fight with a sword, shoot with a bow, and never give up, no matter how hard things got. She had been getting ready for this one mission her whole life. She had to travel north through the ash fields, cross a bridge called the Bone Bridge, reach the Black Tower, and stop the wicked woman named Maren once and for all. She rode out of the palace at sunrise on a black horse, with her sword at her side, her father's good wishes behind her, and not even a tiny bit of doubt in her heart. But she had no idea at all that every single thing she had been told her whole life was completely false. The ash fields looked much worse in real life than they did on any map. The ground was dry and cracked like old broken clay. The trees had no leaves and looked like nothing but thin, bare, dead sticks pointing up at the gray sky. The villages Nora passed through were almost empty, and the few people still living there watched her ride by with sad, tired eyes. Not one person cheered, not one person smiled. Nora did not stop riding. She held the reins tighter and kept going north. The bridge was very narrow and very old, and it was built over a deep crack in the earth that went down so far you could not see the bottom, no matter how long you looked. And standing right at the entrance to the bridge was something that no one in the palace had ever told Nora about. It was a little girl. She was a small child, maybe 8 years old, sitting with her legs crossed at the entrance to the bridge and wearing a plain gray dress. "You are the princess," the little girl said. She did not ask it as a question. She already knew. "Move out of my way," Nora said to her. "I will move," the girl replied. "But first, please answer one question for me." She tilted her small head to the side and asked, "Who told you that the woman in the tower is evil?" "Everyone told me," Nora said. "The history books, the message on the throne room floor, my father, everyone." "Who wrote the history books?" the girl asked. "The royal scholars," Nora answered. "Who carved the message on the floor?" the girl asked. "Who wrote those words and put them there?" Nora opened her mouth to answer, but she could not answer, because she had never once asked that question in her whole life. It had never even come into her mind to ask. The little girl stood up, stepped to the side, and pointed to the bridge. "You may go across," she said quietly. "But please remember this question when you get to the tower. It is going to matter very much." The tower stood alone in the gray, broken land, like a tall, dark, burnt piece of wood. There were no guards outside, no scary creatures, and no heavy gate with a lock. There was just a plain, old door. Nora pushed the door open and walked inside. The room at the top of the tower was small and had almost nothing in it. there was a single candle burning on a plain stone table, and sitting beside that candle was Maren, the wicked woman from every story Nora had ever heard. She was an old woman. She was thin and white-haired and wrapped in an old worn shawl. She looked at Nora's sword without any fear at all. "You look exactly like your grandfather," Maren said in a quiet voice. "You put a curse on this land," Nora said firmly. "No," Maren said simply. "I stopped the land from being robbed." Maren told Nora this. 50 years ago, Maren had been the keeper of something called the heart root. It was a very old and very large living system of roots that ran deep under all of Valdenmoor's ground. It was what kept the land healthy, the rivers clean, the soil good for growing food. Maren's people, who were called the Ash Folk, had always lived in the north and taken care of it. Then Nora's grandfather, King Aldrich, found out that if he dug deep into the heart root, he could pull out a special stone that made his army's weapons almost impossible to break. So he ordered his men to dig into it, and they did it a lot, and they did it very quickly, and they never stopped even when it was clear that the heart root was being badly hurt. Maren went all the way to the palace to ask King Aldrich to stop, but he did not listen. He told her to go away, and his guards threw her out. So Maren used all the magic she had left to close off the dying northern land completely and keep everyone away from it. She did not do it to hurt people. She did it to stop the digging and to give the little bit of heart root that was still alive a chance to rest and slowly heal on its own. "The darkness you see across the north," Maren told Nora, "is not a curse I created to hurt people. It is the land trying to heal from a very deep wound. Your grandfather made that wound, then locked the door on it, and told his children a monster lived inside so that no one would ever go and see what he had really done." Nora slowly lowered her sword. "The message on the throne room floor," she said. "It says the blood of the crown must go north and stop the dark voice." "Your grandfather wrote that message," Maren said. "He wanted to make sure that when someone came looking for answers, they would be carrying a sword instead of an open mind. You were not sent here to save the land. You were sent here to silence the one person alive who still knows the real truth." Nora stood at the small window of the tower and looked out at the gray, broken land that went all the way to where the sky began. This was her kingdom. This was the land she was going to rule one day. And it had been broken because of something her own family had done, and then hidden. She thought about going back and telling everyone the mission was done and the danger was over. Maren was old and weak and would die soon enough. The secret would be gone with her. Nora would ride back as a hero, and the broken land in the north would keep getting worse, and in another 50 years, someone would find a new excuse for it. Or she could do something different. Nora turned back to the old woman. "If I open the land up again and let it breathe, what will happen?" she asked. Maren looked at her with those tired old eyes. "The land will get better, but it will take many years. It will look worse before it looks better. The people will be angry. What do I have to do?" Nora asked. "You have to go back home. You have to stand in front of everyone and tell the whole truth. Every part of it. You have to stop all the digging completely and for good. And you have to be ready to lose your crown if your father refuses." Nora stood quietly for a moment. Then she put her sword back into its holder at her side. "Tell me everything," she said clearly. "I want to hear the full truth, every single part of it, because when I go back home, I am going to need to know exactly what I am saying when I stand up and speak." Nora rode back south at a slow, steady pace, not because she was afraid, but because she was thinking very hard and wanted everything clearly in her mind before she arrived. She thought about the little girl with the silver eyes and the one question she had asked. She thought about a grandfather she had loved very much, whose large golden portrait still hung proudly above the fireplace in the palace, and who had quietly broken the ground under his own kingdom just to make better weapons, and then covered it up with a lie for the rest of his life. She thought about how a lie, if it is told with enough confidence and written down in enough places, stops feeling like a lie. When she could finally see the palace gates in the distance, she kept riding forward at the same steady pace without slowing down. Her father came out to the front yard to meet her with his arms open wide and his face full of happiness and pride. "Nora, you are back. Is it finished? Is the woman in the tower gone?" "She is still alive," Nora said, getting down from her horse. "There is something I was never told about why I was really sent on this journey." She handed her sword to one of the guards standing nearby. She did it not as someone who had lost, but as someone who had decided that a sword was not the right tool for what she needed to do next. "It is time for someone in this family to hear the truth and then be brave enough to do something about it." The happy expression on the king's face slowly disappeared. When Princess Nora entered the throne room, she stood before the king, the royal council, and the people of Valdenmoor, and spoke with a clear, steady voice. She told them everything Maren had revealed, the truth about the heart root, the digging that had wounded the land, and the lie that had been passed down for generations. At first, the hall filled with shocked whispers and anger, but Nora did not step back. She asked her father to end the digging forever and to open the northern lands so they could heal. After a long silence, the king slowly realized the truth in her words and chose to stand beside his daughter. Orders were given that very day to protect the heart root and restore the wounded north. In the months that followed, the dark rivers slowly cleared. The gray skies began to brighten, and small green shoots pushed through the cracked soil for the first time in many years. Farmers returned to their fields, villages filled with life again, and the people of Valdenmoor finally understood that the land had never been cursed. It had simply been waiting for honesty and care. And so Princess Nora's journey did not end with a battle, but with something far greater. A kingdom healed by truth, and a future where the once broken lands of Valdenmoor bloomed greener than anyone had ever seen before. She had left the palace as a weapon that someone else had built and aimed at a problem they wanted removed. She was coming back as something much harder to stop. She was coming back as a princess who knew the truth and was not afraid to say it out loud, no matter what it cost her.